The sun flickered through gaps in dirty shutters. I lay on my old mattress, sweat beading along my back despite the fan's grind. I'd been tagged again, my phone buzzed, a dozen notifications stacked like dominoes. Someone had clipped my interview on the community radio, where I tried to explain why I wanted to be a chef, how food felt like hope to me. The laughter of my neighbors bled into the background of the video. I heard myself young and shaky-eyed, Commodore ear-cute Amma, I think we can do something special even from here. Then the audio cut superimposed by the voice of Senor Aguirre, the barber down the street. From the favela to fine dining, vai hando garoto. The comments below piled up bitter and granular. Vai fritter coxinha na praia tadu, Chef McDonald's, faces I knew, some I loved, laughing at the thought of me behind anything but a food cart. I didn't reply. I watched blue light flicker across my hands, watched the world's derision condense into a kernel hot enough to burn. My mother, Dona Maristella, was scrubbing pans in the kitchen. Her slippers made a shuffling sound on the cracked linoleum. Me, I'm going out, I called, voice rough with sleep. She paused, not turning, red scarf wrapped around her hair. Vai estudar filho. E acute mais seguro. Always the same line, her voice gentle but set in stone. It's safer. She never told me to give up, not in so many words, but I saw the sadness in her movements, the ache she fought to cover when she thought I couldn't see. I shut the door behind me, stepping into air thick with the city's morning heat. Samba from an upstairs window, dogs barking, the smell of frying dough. This had been my world since birth. Vidigal coiled up the hillside, clinging to color and memory. Passers-by smirked when they saw me. I heard my cousin's voice, sharp and nasal, drifting from the bakery line. Chef Tadu, vai me servia pau com ovo. Laughter rippled from people who had known me since I was a child. I kept walking, eyes on the asphalt, letting it all collect in my chest like a leaden stone. Every evening after work at the gas station, I'd cook for whoever would let me. Polenta for Dona Anna, whose sight was failing. Coins exchanged for forgotten tips on herbs. I'd sneak into the kitchens of small bars on the weekends, learning by doing, trading free labor for 10 seconds, watching how properly seasoned feijão should waft from the boiling pot. No stage, no fanfare. Food came from nothing here, from leftovers, cast-offs, stubborn greens clinging to life on a humid balcony. I learned to coax flavor, to pull light from exhaustion. My hands learned to be sure, quick, never wasteful. For years, that was my rhythm: work, cook, endure. Mockery faded but never disappeared. Francisco, the mechanic's son, filmed me breading chicken in the alley one night and posted it. MasterChef of Trash, the caption read. I watch it spread online, every sneer tightening my throat. One night after my shift, Fatima, who ran a modest stand at the market, let me cook something different. Her face softened as she tasted my moqueca, the broth bright, the peppers singing through coconut and dendea. She invited her friends. I cooked like my soul was at stake. By the time I was scraping pans under a sink, head bent, Fatima pressed a slip of paper into my palm, the phone number of a chef running a new spot in Botafogo. Vai lá tadu nem precisa agradecer. I went. I nearly turned back 3 times, my mother's old advice in my chest like stone, but I rang anyway. Chef Gabriella greeted me with cautious curiosity, then impatient command. Keen to learn, she asked, or just here to waste our time? I didn't answer, just walked to the station she pointed. For months I peeled, chopped, scraped, burned my wrists on open flames, listened more than I spoke. I worked after everyone else left, Gabriella noticed. Some nights she sat beside me sharing her cigarettes and stories about Paris kitchens. Cigarette smoke curled in the air, and I realized cooking wasn't a simple act. It was theater, memory, science. She showed me why Vergis was different from lemon, how to build layers in a single bite, a lifetime's worth of tricks packed into those endless Rio nights. When the restaurant won a mention in the food guides, no one mentioned my name. I was still no one, invisible, the rookie from Vidigal who cleaned as hard as he cooked. But every once in a while, Gabriella would let me plate a dish for the dining room. When guests smiled, something inside me cracked open, small victories I never shared. Back home, nothing changed. My mother greeted me less with hope, more with tasks. Neighbors still snickered as they saw my chef coat slung over my arm, stains bloomed across the chest. No one asked what I made, they just saw a kitchen worker, not a chef. Years passed and I carried the ridicule with me everywhere, moved to other kitchens, gradually clawed my way up. It was never pretty. One chef tried to toughen me up by dumping salt in my messy en place. A waiter laughed and called me king of beans. Sometimes I wanted to quit, turn back, settle for less, but silence kept me moving. I would not give them the pleasure of seeing me break. Then in my 30s, Chef Gabriella called me. She was expanding, this time further down to Ipanema. Your own kitchen, Tadju, if you want it. You decide the menu, the team. But you carry the failures too. I barely breathed as she spoke. Images of those first mocking days tumbled through my head. Cell phone screens, laughter, my mother's sad eyes. The restaurant opened in a storm. Rain hammered down, flooding the avenue, blackening the air. Friends of friends trickled in. I worked as if nothing else existed. Taste, arrange, repeat. My hands remembered everything. The rhythm became a sort of prayer. Word grew in the city. Our signature dish, feijoao tropeiro reimagined, roasted chorizo wrapped in collard greens, the memory of my mother's kitchen just beneath the surface of each bite. Critics came. Influencers filmed me from across the pass, but this time their laughter glittered with disbelief, not scorn. Months later, a message pinged on my phone late at night. The Rio State Culinary Awards announced their shortlist. My name stood at the top. It felt like staring at an unfamiliar face in the mirror. My mother watched from her apartment television, her eyes wide as all the neighbors gathered in. They watched me in a chef coat that finally fit, shaking hands with city officials. The viral laughter at my expense had faded. New clips surfaced, me accepting the award, tears running down my cheeks. My name was trending again, but attached to respect. I still remember the first time I went back to Vidigal after that, stepping down the winding streets as the sun set over the ocean. Every smell and sound hit me with the force of memory: fried yucca, kids playing capoeira, a pair of old men arguing over football. Familiar stares met me, but uncertainty mingled with old sneers. I carried 2 cloth bags, packed with things I never could have afforded: the best cuts, imported cheeses, olive oil that glowed green under the streetlights. I walked up to my mother's building, the same chipped tiles, the same rusty gate. She opened the door, thinner than before, but her eyes brightening a little as she took me in. "You're busy nowadays," she murmured. "I came to cook me for everyone." By nightfall, the block was alive. Neighbors lingered, drawn by scent. I set up a battered table right outside, lined up plates, cut fresh herbs. My hands moved automatically, faster than thought. When the food was ready, I called out in the same voice they had all mocked once. "Venom comer. Let's eat." Word spread, people drifted toward the aroma, first out of curiosity, maybe performance. Kids craned to see the chef in action. My cousin, who had once mocked me in the bakery line, looked down at his feet, then quietly asked for seconds. I served everyone, no fanfare, just laughter around full plates, silence as they tasted things familiar but impossibly new, a chorus of "Meu Deus" and shocked smiles. The food said everything I could not. Then from behind the crowd, I noticed Senor Aguirre, the barber, the man whose voice had been spliced into that first video. For a moment he hesitated, face flickering between pride and embarrassment. He stepped forward, grey hair gleaming in the fading light. "Tadju, can I have a little more?" His voice had softened, carrying years of skepticism shifting under the weight of what he'd just experienced. In that silence, the whole street watched him. My mother's eyes shone with relief, her hand clutching her chest. "Claro, Senor Aguirre, tem bastante." He tried the food again, chewing slowly, almost reverently now. Around us, even old skeptics watched with a new attentiveness. The children who used to mock me for cooking like a girl slurped their bowls and ran to their parents. I heard a woman whisper, "Did you know he cooks in Ipanema now? Michelin stars, they say." It wasn't until later, as laughter and music filled the street, that Senor Aguirre pressed my arm. "Disculpa garoto," he said softly. "I didn't know. I didn't see." I met his gaze, searching for resentment, but found none. "Sometimes neither did I replied quietly. Night gathered around us, cool and welcoming. For the first time, no one doubted. The taste of redemption lingered, hot and fleeting, on every tongue. I washed pans with my mother that night, every scrape echoing the sounds of years gone by. People lingered outside, talking, plates licked clean. My mother touched my shoulder. "You did it," she said. I looked back at the home where silence taught me resolve and realized the city itself had changed. Maybe so had I, sharpened by ridicule, honed by years of hunger, now returned, carrying proof at last. I knew then that the strongest flavors in my hands would always be sourced here, from earth thick with memory and disappointment, from laughter turned to awe. Later that night, I stepped out onto the apartment's tiny balcony. Below, the block was quiet, embers of the night still glowing. My phone buzzed again, a signal now not of ridicule but of requests, invitations, gratitude. I let the sounds fade. I breathed in sea air, the whole city opened before me. The proof my community demanded was never the award nor the television spot. It was this: every plate emptied, every neighbor returned for seconds, every sneer softened under real flavor. I was home now, not just as the butt of a joke, but as someone who had built his own table, and finally, at last, they had chosen to sit and eat.